New Radio Sports Network and 1041 WRLU. Welcome back to the show with Pat Mikesch as we recap another exciting weekend of Green Bay Gamblers hockey, a shootout win, a normal win on Friday night in front of the home crowd. And before we even get into like the games themselves and the other players on the roster, is there anybody more dialed in right now than Jackson Hallam?
Well, he had a great weekend, and he's still a young player to this league, but I mean he's such an elite skater that when he gets his opportunities, it's hard to catch him. And I thought he used that wisely. Great puck support on his first one, and then a great penalty kill goal where he pressured their guy, and there's just no way to keep up if he can force that turnover. So, I think we're working with Jackson on his play without the puck. But if he uses that skating, he's a beast to play against.
I mean, he had the 3 goals on Friday, a hat trick. At one point, I believe he still ended up outscoring Cedar Rapids by himself in that one. And that was a first period hat trick. And how rare is that to have somebody really just jump off the gun like that?
Yeah, I mean, you don't see it often all in one period. But that's kind of what elite goal scorers do. They're streaky. And, it was important that he carried it over to Saturday's game. And, when he came out of the gates and got us going again with a goal in the first period on Saturday.
Yeah, 2 goals and an assist, and then also one in the shootout there as well. And you played Dubuque, a week after, they kind of had their way with you on your home opener. You're able to go to their home ice and be able to beat them 5-4. You actually get to play them again this weekend too. And how important is that, or how good is that for your young team to face a talented roster like the Fighting Saints this many times this early in the season?
Well, it is a great test. They're an experienced group over there, and we know that top line is an extremely tough matchup. And so I thought our guys did a much better job of being aware when they were on the ice and understanding what the strengths of their game are. But at the same time, they came through with a couple big goals for their team as well. So there's still lots of learning to do. And what I like about this week is we don't have to spend a lot of time prepping for what our opponent does because we're familiar with them. We can spend more time on our individual team and things that we need to do better as a group. And then even as some individuals on, what's going to make them successful in this league.
What was maybe the biggest difference that you saw out of your team compared to 2 Fridays ago now, that home opener, compared to what you saw in Dubuque this past Saturday?
Well, we kind of got through their run, when they came at us here in our building, they were able to score, get that lead, and made us chase the game. And we got through their tough 5 minutes that they threw at us early. And then we responded and started to create our own offense and took advantage of that.
And you mentioned before, as we kind of started things off, focusing on Jackson Hallam, who obviously big goal scorer. You know what he can do with the puck, but you mentioned before that right now you're working on what he does when he doesn't have it. And that's kind of an interesting thing, because I think when people get, moody and stuff like that, it's usually when they have the puck in their possession that, they don't like what they do with it and stuff like that. But can you kind of go through what you work with your players when they're just out on the ice, making sure that they're in the right spaces while another player might actually be possessing the puck?
Yeah, a lot of it is, how we defend. And, if everybody's locked in and we're working as 5-man units, the amount of time the opponents are going to have is minimal. And the quicker we do that, the quicker we work together. Now we get the puck back and get to go and do the things we like to do. So it's, how we funnel into our own zone and support each other so that we know the other team doesn't have the options they want. And back checking is our funneling, and, just being responsible without it and knowing that you're predictable. And that's when a team is starting to really play well, when all of their teammates are very predictable and where they're going to be. And it just makes our 5-man unit that much stronger.
And, you're very similar, but obviously not the same as like a high school team where you always kind of have those moving parts moving in and out and things like that. How do you like how your team is gelling right now? Because obviously that's a really big piece of hockey, not just with those 5-man units, but when you have to go on the power play or penalty kill and things like that.
I think we're learning a lot about ourselves every week. And, we're going to add Luke Welland back into the lineup this week coming off the IR, which we're excited about. That's another experienced player that we were able to trade for last spring from Sioux Falls. So this group is far from being what its identity will be. Like we want to create how we're going to play and what our night in and night out mission is going to be. But right now we're just growing as a group and, letting our leaders kind of evolve. And so I don't think we'll be gelled or anything that way until hopefully that Thanksgiving through Christmas run, we could start to say, that's where we knew what we were as a team and how we wanted to carry ourselves through that second half.
You had a chance to also see a little bit more extended time with Radislav Elias, your goaltender there. He was in on Saturday, made 22 saves and faced a shootout as well. And what did you like seeing out of your young goaltender there? Because obviously that's got to be one of the first shootouts of the season, and seeing him be able to make two big saves in that shootout against that talented Fighting Saints team.
Well, it's funny because our players will tell you he's great in the shootouts. And so going into that situation, actually, I was rather comfortable that, hey, we might have the advantage here, or we probably do have the advantage in the goaltending side of things. So that's one of those areas that he's probably extremely comfortable even for a young goalie. But I really like the way that he started that game. He made a couple big saves early, and you saw him settle in, where when he played out in Pittsburgh, I don't think he ever settled into that game. It was just his first USHL real game experience, and you could see the nerves. And so for him to go play in a tough environment like Dubuque and be so poised was great to see out of such a young player.
Now, we know goalies have a few screws loose to begin with, but how weird is that kind of right off the bat, you could say, yeah, in one of the most pressure-filled situations you can be in, a shootout, and you're cool with it. He's comfortable with it, and everybody's kind of like they can relax because they know that this is a part of his game that he excels in.
Yeah, our bench was saying as soon as we were going to it, they call him Rasto, and they're like, Rasto, you got this, and you could see he's very calm. Like there's not a lot of highs and low with him, and he carries himself, very, very well and confidently, but he's not loud with anything. And so like he was ready for it. He gave a little nod and off to the net he went and stopped two of the best players in the league. So it was great to see.
And you're used to working with young guys all the time. As we start to have a little bit of fun with the roster here, you keep on getting older, but the kids stay the same age all the time here. Have you had those moments yet where maybe you make a reference to something where you almost have to explain it, like they were just born yesterday because it was maybe obscure aughts reference or 90s reference or something like that?
Yeah, I try to stay out of that. I try to have a little bit of a feel on the times. I'm lucky to have a 16-year-old kid, and I had two kids in college now that kind of helped me through those times. But I keep it to business. I think my assistants are able to relate a little bit better to what's going on in social media and some of those things that I might be behind the times on.
All right, so you're not quoting, random movies or, TikTok videos or anything like that. You're letting everybody else kind of handle that part of it.
Yeah. I just try to be there, the guy that keeps everything a little bit organized and keep them on task is probably the biggest thing when I'm dealing with all these young kids.
And getting back on task, you're facing Dubuque again this Friday. And, after playing them twice, what kind of things do you kind of see them throwing back at you, now that you've faced them three times and they've seen you in the best of times and they've seen you in the worst of times so far already?
Yeah, I think we're still finding ways to try to slow them down in transition. Their experienced D-corps moves pucks very well, and we have to be a little bit quicker to our transition to defend without it. And we've gotten caught in between, and that even happened in that third period on Saturday night. And so just us finding ways to take away what they do extremely well, it will be a key this week. But it's easier to talk about now that we've seen them twice and, have a little bit of video to learn from. But like I've already said, like I'm excited about this week because we can focus a lot on us and things that we want to do even more of in the offensive zone, which we worked on yesterday, and just, creating a little bit of our identity and working at that even more than focusing on just that one more game against Dubuque here.
And how hard is that to kind of identify what that identity is going to be and kind of make it flourish during this practice time?
Well, I think it's you have your strengths of your team, and we know we're going to be a rather good transition team, but we can be even better. Like we want to get a few of those other younger kids to kind of see some success with, moving without the puck and being able to get their zone entries and not feel that they have to force something. That's probably the biggest thing right now is just helping the younger players see things that are really going to help them, become the elite players they want to be at this level.
And how important is it? And we'll leave you with this one as, you obviously had the fall classic where you had a couple of games. You come home, you play one game on a Saturday. Last week, you got 2 games. This week, you only have the one. How important is it to not have, all the back-to-back games that you can possibly cram in this early in the season so you can work on some of those little things?
Yeah, you can learn from games and you can learn from practice. So it's using what the schedule allows for you. And right now, we need to use this practice time. I mean, we only play one game this weekend and we play the one game next weekend. So if we sat there and only focused on who our opponent is for those 2 games, we'd be wasting time. So we need to use this time for us and make sure that, one, we're helping those younger kids get comfortable into this league, but at the same time, we can use this time in conditioning and getting physically stronger to make sure that during those grind times when we need to get more days off, then we're still going to be feeling that we prepare our bodies to go through those hard times.
Green Bay Gamblers on the road this weekend. They will face the Dubuque Fighting Saints before coming home next Friday night, which is when our next broadcast will be. But we'll talk about that opponent next week. Coach, as always, we appreciate the time and good luck this weekend.
Sounds good, Tim. Thank you.
And for the New Radio Sports Network, I'm Tim Coles.